Hey, for some reason, I think you know what Clubhouse is. And it got me thinking, what are the factors and features and value prop that plays into a viral product? So today we're gonna be doing a case study with a product designer in LA, and we're gonna try and understand that. But if you stay till the end of this video, you'll actually get advice on how to build your own viral product yourself. Today we have a special guest, Risa.
Hi, I'm Risa, and I'm a product designer now living in LA. I'm originally from Tokyo. I actually designed a couple of social apps, including Community, which is a texting platform, which is now being used by Obama, Ashton Kutcher, etc.
So as a starting point, let's ask the $1,000,000 or even $1,000,000,000 question. How do you even design a viral app? It's such a broad topic. I think a better way to try to answer this is take Clubhouse as a case study and then add it to our answers, but I'm sure you have a hypothesis. Let's hear it.
Yeah, I think what they did really well is that the timing was perfect, The COVID started, everybody was staying at home, being lonely, and that's when Clubhouse came in. I think what enabled them to release their app at such a good timing is because they were fast at noticing, what's lacking in the society and building a product that everybody wanted. So building the app really fast is another key factor, and just observing from the fact that they only released an iPhone app and not Android, I think they made a decision to speed up their production process. But what do you think? What made Clubhouse viral?
It's definitely that sense of urgency that's like, yo, I'm definitely missing out, when you see all your friends kind of getting on this app. You don't have based on my experience, I saw a bunch of people getting on this app and kind of hyping it up, and the way that they spread the word is basically like, I have an invite, here's Clubhouse, now join Clubhouse. That's free advertisement, just that sense of fear of missing out, trying to get people. It made me want to join Clubhouse, even though I had no idea what it was. And I logged onto Clubhouse and I was like, what is this? And I never really used it for a few days until I started getting these notifications. And it's like, okay, now I want to join because it seems like a bunch of people are on here constantly, again and again. They just make it seem like you're missing out and you have to join. They really hit that on the nail for human psychology.
Another thing I think they did really well is to lower the barrier for the speakers. So for me, as a product designer, I would do online events. Previously, I had to when I wanted to do an online event, I have to organize, right? It took me like a week to organize. I had to link my Zoom account and the YouTube link and connect the two and announce it on Instagram. And I got around 50 people listening that day, but with Clubhouse, I didn't plan it out. I just opened up my room and then 50 people came in, and they were all new people that I never knew before. So for me, that was a big wow moment because I noticed how effortless it is to join the platform as a speaker. So I think they nailed it.
Yeah, and also talk about how it was really hard to get and invite people, and that's definitely another part of how Clubhouse didn't do so well. I want to hear more about that.
They could definitely improve the inviting experience. For me, I was surprised that if you wanted to invite someone, you need to know their phone number and they need to know your phone number. That's a little bit of friction for me, especially because I'm from Japan where nobody uses phone number to communicate. We all use this app called Line. So for me, first step, I had to ask my friend's phone number, and that was an extra step I had to take. So I think they could definitely improve the inviting portion.
Mm-hmm. And that ties back to done is better than perfect. They didn't fully think about the culture of how people send invites and receive invites, but they still got it out there, and it's thriving right
now. And it's very small things, but for example, you can't edit the title after you create a room. Also, the text-filled input for the title portion is really hard to discover. And another thing is that Clubhouse has this concept of clubs, which I'm not too familiar because I wasn't really sure what they meant by it. I joined a club called product design, but nothing happened. There's a lot of things that they could improve, but it seems like they haven't prioritized it. And that's okay because when you want to create a viral app, you need to ship fast and you have to prioritize. So long story short, I think done is better than perfect.
Right. And when do you know when to launch that app? When is it too bad of a product and when is it just right?
That's a great question. I think the best way to find that out is doing beta testing, right? So before launching, there's a couple of ways to test your app. One way is to release it as a test flight. This is an exclusive app download. It doesn't go public on the App Store, but you could still download the app if you provide them with the links. A lot of company does this. They use that exclusive invite, and we call them alpha testers, beta testers. We do those tests and see how they react. We look at the adoption rate. So how many people, first of all, downloads that app and then continues to use that. So we look at the retention rate. So if we see those alpha beta test users use the app continuously, if there's a high engagement there, that's when you want to launch it to a bigger crowd.
Another thing is definitely the big names on this app, right? It adds to that sense of urgency, but also I think it's an entire category on its own when it comes to building these apps. I know you have experience when it comes to getting influencers on a product you were building before. I would love to hear more about your opinions on this.
I think the key for an app, any product to become viral is to have influencers on their platform as fast as possible. The best way to do that is to get the top players from each industry. So let's say if it's like the K-pop industry, you want to get Blackpink. If it's the politics world, you want to get Obama. So long story short, you want to get the top player, the key player, so that the other influencers will follow them.
Right. How do you get these key players?
You need connections for sure. You need connections. So you need to know someone who's very close to them, because especially if it's a new product, people are pretty skeptical about it, right? Like, is there security issues? Influencers cares about that. So you need someone really close to them who is willing to, stand up for your app and sell the idea to that person.
One of the things I want to ask you is, I'm a 16-year-old really ambitious person and I want to build a product, let's say, and I want to get viral, but I don't have those big connections, How do I reach these celebrities? What do they care about? What's the best I can do?
Do you have a specific person in mind when it comes to celebrities?
Let's talk about Obama. How do we get Obama? Because I know you have the experience of getting Obama on your app.
Just like anything, you have to understand the user. So what does Obama want? Obama wants to be able to share his word, especially for election time. He wanted people to vote. So that's what he cares about. So if I was a product person who wants to sell my product to him, I would really try to capture his need and make sure that my app has a solution for that.
Yeah. I see. Can you go a little more specific? So how do you reach out to him? Like cold emailing, reaching out to his management team, And
how do you reach Obama? I mean, obviously the best thing is that you know someone who knows Obama. Another thing is you could maybe make a video, not a love letter, but video letter to him, right? If you're 16 years old and you're very ambitious, he might listen to you. I would try to do something that nobody else does. So I would just keep trying if you really want him, but it's gonna be challenging for sure.
I see. Okay. Cool.
Also, of course, that app needs a unique value that no other product provides them. So that brings up another question. What do you think Clubhouse provides that no other app provides?
Instead of listening to music now, I actually listen to Clubhouse, and it's a way of podcast, but it's way more casual and it just feels easier to listen to that than Spotify. Like there's some sort of resistance to want to listen to a podcast, because it feels like it's a commitment thing. It's like, oh, like I said I'm going to listen to this podcast and I have to finish listening to it, and like this is where I'm going to get value. But then Clubhouse, it's like, oh, I'm just going to spontaneously listen in on a conversation. That mental barrier and procrastination goes away. Whereas if we were to put this on a line, the first thing would be trying to listen to music, but that doesn't really give me any type of educational or self-improvement investment. But then you have podcasts and then you have Clubhouse. Clubhouse is in that sweet spot between the two where it's not instant gratification, but it's still helping me somehow. There's this other part of spontaneity where you only have audio, you can't be recorded, and you can just hop in and out of rooms. And they do this really subtly nice thing on Clubhouse where it says leave quietly. So there's really low friction to joining a room or even leaving a room.
Another thing that I've noticed, speaking from the influencer's point of view, is that it's a very safe environment for them because you're in control of who they allow to speak. So you don't get trolls or you don't get people who are like constantly shaming you. And that's different from Twitter and Instagram, right? You get tons of inappropriate photos or some really hatred messages, but Clubhouse, it feels a little bit more controlled and safe.
What was it, like beauty is in the eye of the beholder or something like that? It's kind of like,
man.
it is a safe community if there are safe people on it. And maybe that has to do with the exclusive invites. How do you think Clubhouse went through these features and decided that these would be good features to make that app viral?
I think voice only was the key because instantly you don't have to think as many things. For example, if you were on video, you have to think, oh, do I look good? My hair good? And all that kind of thing. But if it's just voice only, you can be in whatever posture you want and you could just, you don't have to worry about that. So I think voice only is a big part of it.
How did they go from 0 to 1 though? You know, like they were in a board meeting or something like that. They were just in a meeting and they were talking about building this product and talking about this idea. How do you think they went from like thinking about designing a good product to saying, oh, this feature would be good for this product?
Unless for the insider, it's hard to make an assumption, but what might have happened is that they were in a room and they were all, giving updates during COVID. What do you do? And most likely everybody was like, oh, I call my friends and family. That's it. And then maybe the CEO at Clubhouse noticed that, oh, there's a high demand in calling people right now. Just like how Snapchat became a thing, right? You know the story behind it, do you?
I actually don't.
Oh, interesting. So Snapchat became a thing because high schoolers were sending each other naughty pictures, and that became an issue because when couples break up, they use the photo to advantage. So Snapchat became a thing to prevent that from happening, so that the photo disappears, meaning you could be a little more casual when you send photos.
Right.
Long story short, Snapchat became to be because they observed these high schoolers' behaviors and noticed the demand.
Everything in product is user-centric, which makes sense.
Something like Clubhouse, it's actually really easy to test. The key is to validate over and over and try to do it the quickest way. In order to validate this concept where what if we do a voice only social app? What if we do a voice only social app? You can actually simulate that experience using Zoom or something else. Just turn off the camera and try it. And if they could test that experience with themselves or with a couple of high schoolers and influencers, they can instantly see the value of it. So when you're trying to build something really fast without investing a whole 5 engineers effort, you can always go the shortcut route and test and validate.
How do you incentivize that user and provide a good reward?
Yeah, so first thing first, we need to define what rewards mean to those target users. If we think about Clubhouse, if you open the app, you instantly see available rooms, right? So it starts off with trigger. Trigger it could be an external trigger or internal trigger. It could be a notification, for example. Or internal trigger is what does the user really want? In this case, people are bored, they're lonely. So every moment that the users feel lonely or bored, that's an internal trigger that gets them open an app. So that's the trigger portion. And the next is the action. So actions is what is the simplest behavior in anticipation of reward. Analyzing Clubhouse, I think it's when they open the app, they see the rooms. So those rooms can be really interesting sometimes. One time I opened up Clubhouse and I noticed that it was a room filled with people who's just making anime sounds. Like they all had each like random avatars like Winnie the Pooh, and they were like constantly making Winnie the Pooh sounds. But it was just a strange room, but I thought that was really interesting. So every time I open the timeline, I see something unique and weird, and that's what keeps me coming back to the app. So the next is variable reward. Is the reward fulfilling yet leaves the user wanting more? I think Clubhouse applies to this because when I used it as a speaker, I was really impressed. I started off the room with my friend, just the two of us, and then in 30 minutes, there was like 50 people listening. And I actually got a bunch of notification of those people actually following on my Twitter account too. So it gave me a reward that no other app gave me previously. So that was really intriguing. And then the last is investment. What is the bit of work done to increase the likelihood of returning? For example, if you're ordering food online, it lets you submit all the information that like you want cheeseburger, whatnot. And then at the end, they ask you, oh, can you put your phone number and your personal information? And then now, because you invested that time putting, burgers order, you don't want to retry. We don't want to stop the process. You feel like you have to complete to the end because you put that investment in the beginning. So I actually think the investment part applies to when you're invited to the platform. You went through all these hoops and you asked a friend of yours to invite yourself to the platform. Now you feel like you have to use it because you went through all that trouble.
Now that you've stayed till the end, we've structured these questions to fit your user journey of this video. So what do you care about? And clearly you care about advice, and how can you apply this to building your own products? So let's get started on these questions. So Risa, if you had an idea, how do you make sure that idea is a really good, solid idea?
Yes, to make sure it's a good idea, you have to make sure that it's not a vitamin idea, it's a painkiller idea, right? So vitamin is a nice to have, but painkiller is a must have. So downloading an app on your phone is actually a lot of work. You have to open up an app store, you have to switch from another product to that product. So it's actually causing a lot of huge friction. So your product has to be, valuable enough for the user so that they go through all of those hurdles.
Right. Now, how do you know when to pursue that idea?
Yes, I would hand it off to a couple of test users, target users, and observe. So there's multiple ways to do that. You could use a tool called Test Flight. You can share that app without actually uploading it to the App Store. So try to find a way to test it really quickly. Observe if they're going to go, observe if they're successfully go through their sign up, they actually come back to the app over and over again. If you see a green light with a couple of first test users, then I would say go ahead.
Right. There's also that lean in method, right? Like if you put a test website and it's like, click here to sign up, but you don't actually have a product yet, you can see how many people click that button, which is really interesting. Okay. Now moving on from this question, once you pursue that idea, how do you turn that idea into a viral product?
Yes, there's a couple ways to do that. Obviously, if you could involve influencers and celebrities, that would be a huge, huge boost. Also, another key way is to really focus on the close-knit. Instead of dispersing the audiences, try to focus on small communities first. So, Facebook started at Harvard, I think. Was it Stanford? I don't remember, but it was either one of them. Tinder started also in a Greek life. The intern at Tinder brought their app and pitched it to a frat and the sororities, and they started using it very heavily. So the key is to focus on close-knit and expand from there.
Awesome. Now that you've created this viral app, how do you make sure it sustains that impact and make sure it's long lasting?
Yeah, you have to pay attention to all the small behaviors that you can observe from data tools such as Mixpanel. It's a famous one, but you could actually really look at granular data, which screen, which feature does the user use the most? What type of users are highly engaged? For example, Twitter, they noticed that the highly engaged users tend to follow more than 3 users in the onboarding. So they made sure that they accomplished that. All the new users had to go through that flow to even sign up, and that actually boosted their engagement. The key is to observe the user behavior and try to update your product according to that.
Awesome. Now, if you take a step back from all of our conversations today, does it really matter if an app or product is viral?
That's a great question. So I actually worked on a couple of consumer apps, which are, heavily used by everybody. But I also worked on 2 business products, which is used for business purposes, used by companies, big companies. It really depends on what kind of product you're pursuing. If you are building a product that requires a lot of customers to make the business profitable, Facebook is a great example. They need a lot of users because their main income is advertisement. You need to be viral. However, if you're a 2 business product, you are able to gain money per purchases or per transaction. It's no longer dependent on the number and the volume of users. It's actually more about focusing on the niche audience and making sure that you solve the problem. So it really depends.
Right. I genuinely really happy with the content we talked about today. It wasn't BS. It was actually backed by cases, and we talked about it, and I made sure I understand what you're saying and can see myself applying this advice. And really happy I was able to talk to you about all this and get all this valuable insight. Thank you so much for joining us here today and getting all these knowledge drops. Thank you so much.
Yeah, anytime. I really enjoyed talking to you.
Awesome. Now, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. If you have any future video ideas, make sure to drop them down below in the comment section. And go follow Risa on YouTube. Do you want to go do a little self-plug for your YouTube?
Yeah. I have a YouTube channel called Risa Pizza. I talk about product design, so please follow me if you're interested. I have videos around what a day is like for a product designer and some topics about micro interactions, and I'm planning to post more.
Hey, I'm Christina, an early UI UX designer at a YC company and also building out a pictorial curriculum to train illiterate doctors in Nigeria. It's much more complicated than that. There's more nuance. You can learn about it more in the description below. But the point of this introduction is to tell you that I genuinely believe in design impact. And so do a lot of designers as well. And I admire them for that. And I want to share these stories and experiences and convos that I have with you. And so over the next couple of videos on my channel, you'll be hearing a lot of talks with other designers. You wouldn't want to miss out on it, so make sure you subscribe so you can see more in the future.